Good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sales and Entrepreneurship series. As you know me, I am Lyndon Braffett, CEO and founder of OPAAT-SWY Consulting Limited. And today I am extremely happy. As I always say that when I have a guest, but there's a special reason for this, all right? Because I have with me today Miss Resa Gooding. Now, Resa Gooding is out there in Israel doing some great work. She actually has built an agency, the number 2 agency in Israel as a HubSpot partner. But more importantly than that is that Resa made a very, very big step of leaving a little island and going across the big Israel and doing some really major things. And Resa is a lady of the soil of Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm always happy when I meet other Trinidadians just stepping out and just really excelling. So Resa, thank you for taking the time to be with me on this series. Welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Lyndon. You know, you are my boy. Whenever you call, I'm available. So thanks for having me finally.
All right. So what I want to do, I want to kind of allow you to just give people a little bit of an introduction into yourself, let them know, what is it that you do? How long is it that you've been out there in Israel? The nature and state of your agency right now, because again, it's a really, really major thing to go out there in such a big competitive space and to be number 2 platinum partner as that, so if you could just share with us that journey and, some of the things that you would have done to get to that point.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in Israel for 13 years, almost 14 years now. Right. So I started my career in marketing because Israel speaks Hebrew. It's their national language. I only speak English. Right. But I saw the opportunity, like we good Trinis always see the opportunity in every hardship. Right. I realized that, listen, every company in Israel is trying to market to the US or to the UK. Nobody cares about selling in Israel. So I used my English and my advantage to get myself into companies in the beginning. And from there, I really learned, how Israelis think, the types of products and services they come up with, and really trying to come up how to market their products and services better. I worked with a couple agencies before I started my own agency as well. But when I came across HubSpot, I remembered I was in a job, Lyndon, through Trinity the Bone, okay? So This is between us watching this and me. Let's hope no Israelis watch this. But the joke was, I was in a job where Israelis love to see your face, typical kind of Trinity sometimes too. Right, they pay you from 9 to 5. Even if you have no work to do from 9 to 5, you need to be in that office from 9 to 5. So in Israel, workday is 9 to 7 because we have to work internationally as well. So we always have to work later than usual. And usually in that job, I worked as a kind of account manager for an advertising firm. So basically I had a client, a company, part of the company was in China, part was in the US and Israel. So my work would be like for 2 hours in the morning, right? Because I had to speak to China, which was before us. And then I would have like a dead time between 11 to 4 o'clock until the US wakes up. And I can't leave the office. So I decided, okay, let me do something. And because I didn't really have work, I have to wait for the US to wake up. Right. And then I would start like Googling stuff and I came across HubSpot. So I saw HubSpot. I started doing all of their courses and I started putting it on my LinkedIn. And then suddenly people were calling me and saying, oh, HubSpot, could you come and help us, give us some consultancy, give us this and give us that. And I was like, but I don't really know HubSpot. But you know what? Yes, I can do that. Right. Exactly. And I got into those jobs and I started, working with people. And of course, I'm calling HubSpot support service for every little thing in the beginning because I really didn't know what I was doing. But with practice, after about a year of doing that, I understood the systems and I was like, this is what this is all about. And I loved it. So I eventually left that agency, that company, and I went and worked with HubSpot agencies in Israel. Right. Now, there was like, at the time, it was about 6 or 7 agencies. Fast forward to 3 years, 5 years after, there are 22 HubSpot agencies in Israel. Okay, so it's a very, very competitive space, but over 70% of companies and startups in Israel use HubSpot. So this is, how I really began my journey and how I really got into HubSpot because I love their support, I love their system, and I think it brings the most value to businesses on the whole.
Yeah, and I could agree with you, dear. Being a young partner, of HubSpot.
Mm-hmm.
I remember us having that conversation where I wasn't too sure which direction to go, but you really helped me have a better understanding as to what HubSpot will bring and in terms of their support to me here as a partner in Trinidad. And true to form, they have in some instances over excelled as to, you know, what is it that they have to deliver across the board from when you call, or just certain things that the platform just does for you and makes it so easy.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
So we want to talk a little bit about sales enablement, right? And the reason why I want to go down that direction a little bit is because of the fact that I've used that term here, and I've always found people asking, well, what is that? Many people are very familiar with the sales training, but as I like to mention to them, sales training is one component of sales enablement, because organizations may just think that the sales team needs to get trained, not really recognizing that there are other areas where that you need to work on to help enable sales.
Yeah.
What has been your experience out there in Israel with the startups or with other B2B entities? And how have you gone about really educating folks as to what sales enablement is and why it's important to organizations?
Yeah, you know, during our discussions, I hear your struggles, and I keep telling you, don't worry, the same in Israel. We have the same battles here because businesses are businesses. Businessmen and business leaders all think the same. They try to cut costs wherever they could, and they try to optimize, especially their human resource.
Right.
So oftentimes they hire these salespersons and they think, oh, these are going to change the life of our companies.
Mm-hmm.
But generally today, if you think about it, what are the qualifications for somebody to become a salesperson? You know, you don't have a degree that says you have a BSc in sales, right?
Yeah.
So generally, most salespeople aren't really trained salespeople. They either have a characteristic that people have recognized that make them good salespeople, and most of it is a gift of gab, right? They can talk very well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how most people get into the job of sales. But as you and I saw, and a lot of companies are experiencing, it is not enough anymore because customers have become smarter. They do not want to talk to salespeople. So there are lots of different checkpoints before they even agree to talk to a salesperson.
Right.
So what it is I always try to explain to my customers is that sales enablement makes sure that those checkpoints bring your prospect closer to having a conversation with your salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens basically when we go into an engagement, one of the things I always do is an audit of how the salesperson, you know, generally, first of all, get his leads and what are the quality of those leads and how does he take an opportunity into a customer? Like what are the stages he goes through? What are some of the pushbacks he gets? And really try to work out those things. And then you would, you know, sometimes, as you know, when you use fancy terms, people don't get it. So, okay, we don't need to use the word sales enablement, but everything I'm going to do is sales enablement, basically,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So I say, okay, you know, you need these types of things in place. You know, you need to have a little bit more content, for example, case studies, or you need to have better resources to get people to download things. You need to put those things behind gated landing pages so you can collect more information from people who are doing their own research. So these are all little checkpoints on the way of sales enablement to help the salespeople, first of all, get better leads. So they don't talk to people who are just researching for research sake, like a student, but also that they get people, when they do have them, they can have a more educated conversation with them. And this is what sales enablement has, because customers today expect you to know a lot about them before they speak to you. So it's no longer surprise. It's no longer, oh, how do you know that about me? They actually expect you to know it. So
right. So you mentioned something there, and it immediately had me look at something that I call a broken relationship. And I normally tell organizations, even sometimes when I'm posting it on LinkedIn, that there is a broken relationship between, because most of the time sales enablement is what they focus on specifically is the human resource of the sales team.
yes.
But I've also recognized the importance of marketing and sales having that relationship. What could you say as it relates to, like, why the two should be so connected and as it relates to building business?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, one of the things I actually started doing is referring to marketing teams as digital sales teams.
Right.
So when people give the pushback to too much of marketing, and, you know, because marketing, I must admit, as a marketer myself, we've spoiled things for our own selves, right? Because we got so caught up in fancy stuff. You know how many times I go into companies and the first thing the VP of marketing is telling me is that she's redoing the website. And I'm like, really? Sometimes your website don't even need touching. It's there's so many billions of websites online today. Your website is the last thing of having a redesign is going to impact your sales really. Sometimes some companies do need that redesign, but most companies are having a certain level that is good enough. So the first thing I actually try to change their mind into thinking of marketing as a digital sales team, which means how does marketing help you bring in more leads digitally? That's it. That's their job today. It's not about, they don't do much traditional advertising anymore. So it's not about having posters and banners and, you know, having advertising billboards on the streets or anything anymore. Most companies don't have that budget and they don't want to invest in those types of things and they don't see ROI. So everything you do digitally today could show you ROI, and these are marketing jobs today. But again, it's just getting them into the right mindset. So yes, a big part of our job is to bring marketing and sales closer. And one of the second things we would do after doing that audit is to actually figure out what is the handover, because marketing, some teams do very well and they generate a lot of leads, but then all they do is just send those leads to sales. And then there is no follow-up what actually happened to those leads. And that's what I call really marketing and sales alignment. It's not just enough to send the leads to sales, but you need to do that follow-up and you need to take it one step further to understand what exactly happened to that lead. Did it turn into a customer? Was it a good lead? Did you think it was a junk lead, or was it a lead that just told you he's interested but not ready to buy now? We need that information because it would help them also to know how to build more nurtures or better campaigns to really generate more interest from the leads they're generating, as well as to know what types of channels they should invest in more and more to get those leads. So yes, they have to work closer together, but again, the mindset has to change. And if I kind of like treat marketing as a digital sales team, like an arm of the sales team rather, and not marketing, it sometimes, you know, changes the course of conversation.
And I like how you mentioned that, because you still included sales, digital sales teams, because I tend to find sometimes that marketers only look at marketing as branding, as to you know, we're sponsoring this event and we're doing this and we're doing that and our logo is supposed to be like this, and but really and truly I think that because marketers, I always look at marketers as being, and I don't want to say this in any negative way, but it's an expense. Right? And one CEO mentioned to me a while back where he said an expense must be offset by a revenue. And even if they are not contributing by actually closing the deals, they can contribute towards what they are doing, as you called it so rightfully here, that handover, right? Where they do certain things to bring the deals in or bring the leads in, qualify the leads to a point, and then hand them over. So you're moving from MQL straight into handing it over from the sales. MQL meaning, of course, for those who might be listening, marketing qualified leads, and then handing them over to a sales team, and then the sales team can start processing it from there. But I think on my end, the challenge has really been getting marketing to understand that their role is towards generating revenue, because a lot of the times they don't see it as a revenue generating activity.
And that's because the KPIs for marketers have to change, you know, because too many times companies tell marketers, okay, you need to generate X amount of leads this month, and this is what they focus on. But what their KPI should actually be is how many meetings did sales have. So if you make marketing KPIs tied to what sales results are, you would suddenly find they're more invested in making sure that they do a better job. Because, you know, even with my clients, I don't focus at all on showing how many leads I generated a month. I'm always more focused on how many meetings, how many opportunities sales had. And then sales KPIs will be how many deals they close. So my goal is to make sure they have meetings, not how many leads I generated.
So then you're saying that from on your end, so you've made one of your KPIs to your clients, and you're teaching them that this is how the culture should be, that, okay, how many leads do we get? And coming out of those leads, how many opportunities closed based upon the leads that marketing generated. So then you're actually tracking it all the way back to your marketing activity.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's great.
So all of this is nice, but don't get stuck in the vanity metrics. People like, you know, I love when marketing people tell you, oh, I get 10,000 visitors to my website. You know, I have 5,000 downloads of my case study and my white papers. Great. But are those leads really doing anything for the sales teams? And this is what they need to understand, that they have to be measured by sales metrics.
Right. And you said that, and I remember last year I was sitting with working with a client, and I was in their workspace, and a staff member, because they had someone doing some marketing work for them, and the staff member said, "Hey, I really like that ad that you guys put out." And this is me understanding the mindset of a director when he said, "Yeah, but it ain't bringing no sales." You know, so from a director standpoint, he is saying, okay, yes, that's cool, but I'm spending money to do that, but I'm not getting an offset in terms of revenue from coming from it. So, right. So,
and more than around this time, you see how marketers have to do things to stay relevant, right? Because guess who are the first people getting fired in this crisis? Marketing teams.
Yeah. And that's one of the areas too, so let's just push that point a little bit further. Because I've also found, so even in the crisis, they're also getting fired, but I've also found that their budgets are also very vulnerable. Like I see where organizations are willing to hold back a marketing spend just based upon how the performance of the organization is going, just to safeguard, that expense to, kind of boost up their P&L at the end of the financial year. So really and truly, you didn't really save, or you didn't really do a good job in terms of your P&L, because you don't know if your marketing strategy, if you had a good one, would have been able to generate the right kind of revenue, the right kind of business for you to do better in terms of increasing your sales. So I see companies using holding back on spending as a strategy, but really and truly the strategy should really be executing on your marketing.
Repurposing that budget, yes. They should just realize that it's all about understanding what channels now in marketing should have bigger budgets, not really cutting the budget, but repurposing that budget and rechanneling it into other spaces right now that would bring them the results they seek. Right.
So wow, that was plenty, because of the fact that that a lot of organizations now they don't have anything. And you mentioned something here that spoke a lot about ROI, and I think because companies cannot look at the overall ROI from what is it that I'm spending on an employee and the return that I'm doing for hosting an event and what I'm getting back from doing a sponsorship, at the end of the day, it's just money out the door, and there's nothing coming back in return, so just to kind of pivot a little bit more, let's talk a little bit about sales teams, right? As to what are some of the things that you would recommend a sales team moving into, let's say, a sales enablement framework, let's say, for instance, also specifically a manager or anybody is in charge of sales, what are some of the things that they should be looking at right now, if we're speaking about what's happening in the world right now, as it relates to let's say activity, the way that they approach customers, from on your end?
Yeah, for sure. So, I must say, one of the things that sales teams have to understand and realize, that their jobs are now becoming even more vulnerable than ever, especially field sales. Those people who love to go and meet the customer, who tell you they cannot sell online, they need to go talk, they need to have a meeting, they need to fly from X country to X country to close that deal.
Yes.
Well, this crisis is actually showing you that more and more this is becoming relevant. And this is something I've seen a lot more companies have been trying to do in Israel, is make their process frictionless. So they do not want that there's any interaction with an individual anymore to close a sale. It's coming more like a SaaS platform. Think about SaaS. If you want to buy something today on a website, you just go, you put in your credit card and you get it done, right? And generally that has worked over the last couple of years for smaller spends. If you're spending up to like $500 online, most likely you're more willing to pull out your credit card and do that. So more and more bigger companies now who have bigger budgets or bigger, their platforms cost much more. It could be millions of dollars. These types of salespeople always said, no, we need to be field sales. We need to go out and we need to do stuff. And now these companies who depended on field sales during this crisis had to convert those field sales into digital sales. They had to do exactly what you and I are doing. no longer flying to the customer, but having a Zoom meeting and closing that deal.
Yeah.
So they have learned now they're being forced to change their skills and to adapt to a situation that has made them forcing to make those changes.
Right.
So more and more you're going to see that more and more companies do not want to invest in people flying all over the world and going out to those meetings, but they want to bring those processes digitally. And this is a trend I've seen more and more in Israel, where they're cutting down on their field sales and doing things digitally.
Right. And I excuse me, I would agree with you on that. What I've also seen here, though, is I've seen a lot of organizations, surprisingly enough to me, that they don't have the infrastructure ready for that. Like, I've seen where people, they don't have, I mean, actually, first let me start with the salespeople. I've seen salespeople not having the right tools. Like, they haven't invested in a laptop for themselves, a proper smartphone. And even if they do have a proper smartphone, they don't even know how to use it properly, right? Yeah. And they're also not using it to better themselves. So they're not using it from a personal development standpoint. They're just not using it from a standpoint of growth. To say, okay, even without the company's input, this is what I need to be doing. And then from on the company's input side now, I've seen organizations make investments in certain things and the staff not use it. So, and I think right now I want to kind of segue a little bit into CRM, but I'll start with like this, right? I've had someone mention to me, I don't know if my staff deserves a CRM, right? I've had an IT director indicate to me, and these are just them expressing their, let's say the word frustrations to an extent, right? Where he would have said, listen, people are not even using the basic features and things like Outlook to set a meeting and do reminders and stuff. Why would I invest in a CRM to excuse me, which might be a little bit more expensive, and they're not even using those little things, which kind of also still fall in the space of a CRM. And that has always sort of stumped me to an extent, because of the fact that as much as I understand the broader aspect of what a CRM is, I also realize that it just comes down to the culture and the discipline of a sales professional. You know,
yes.
I don't know if you've had some of those similar experiences as it relates to talking CRM and really now managing both your sales and your marketing. So we spoke about sales and marketing just now, and now I just kind of want to talk about CRM as to how it encapsulates everything that we just spoke about.
Lyndon, my dear, trust me, your struggles are my struggles. And it's, you know, just like today, I had a training with a medical company and their sales team. It's a medical company that has been like operating for the last 40 years. They've been super successful. And for 40 years, they managed without a CRM. And these are like, they're providing all the emergency supplies to hospitals all over the world, okay? Right. So by far they are huge.
They're huge, they're working, right?
Exactly. And when we started this engagement 6 months ago to implement a CRM, well, you should see this, the only thing the salespeople didn't do is come out with machetes and hatchets to kill us in that room, okay? Right. They were always like, who are these people? What are they trying to do to us?
Right.
Now, you have to understand that one of the things I always explain to managers outside of the salespeople, the thing is that salespeople actually call the CRM the big brother, because a lot of salespeople hide behind the fact that they're not really doing their work.
Yeah.
So when you put a CRM, everything becomes very transparent. Mm-hmm. So you see which sales team members making the most calls, which ones are sending out the most emails, which ones are, are really closing more deals than the other. Before, you were depending on an Excel sheet and their word of mouth to tell you how they were doing. And you would look at the numbers in some way, but you didn't have that transparency until the numbers are right. Right. Today with a CRM, you have full transparency. Every morning, the first thing a manager could do is look on his phone or look on his laptop and see the activity of every salesperson, and that's frightening. Mm-hmm. Because as I said, most salespeople, as I said earlier, don't have any pre-qualification for this job. They got this job because they convinced someone that they know how to sell. Yeah. But most people don't really know how to sell.
Yeah. Okay. And what I found, as you said, that organization is 40 years old. I know of a couple of them that have some years in it as well. And their way of selling is almost at the same age of the organization, 40-something years old, 30-something years old, 41 years old. So it hasn't evolved. It has not changed. Or as I said, they have not taken the initiative to better themselves and continuously making sales a study towards that happening.
And that's what I tell it to the sales team now, because now I can't go to the sales team and tell them Big Brother is watching them, right? So I have to give them the benefits of the CRM. And that's the most important thing I say, because especially for companies like that, they don't sell directly, right? They sell through distributors. And one of the things they always did was just forward leads to the distributors and forget about it. And I say to them, hey, you want to make sure that these distributors, the leads you're following, are actually turning into customers for these distributors. You don't want to be wasting people's time. Before, you had no clue about what was happening. A CRM now helps you track all of those activities. So you can see how many leads you forwarded to a distributor every month. You can see how many of them turn into a customer. And then you can update your database accordingly, so you know how to upsell to those people, because they are in your database as customers as well. Even though you are not selling directly to those people, the goal is to let them always be aware of what your products are, so they could go back and ask the distributors for it, and the distributors can sell more. So this is the benefits I try showing the sales teams, why you need to work with a CRM, because before everything is in notebooks or Excel sheets, and they're losing that visibility. So you have to get sophisticated in the way you're delivering your services as a salesperson.
Right. So one thing that you said there that stood out, and it was going to be along the lines of a question on CRM adoption rates, right? You indicated that you have to show the sales team the value, right?
Yes.
And that for me has definitely been one of the key areas, because as you rightfully said, salespeople see CRM, even if you're giving them an Excel, sometimes they're seeing that as the big brother, or you just want to track my activity, right? And I have seen actually where I did an implementation with HubSpot, and when I was actually able to show the team how to do certain things and also help them bring leads to them, they started asking me. They were updating it for themselves. They were saying, hey, Lyndon, how do I go about updating this again? Or you have any leads from it? Or how do I find out about this lead again? So really showing them how it could make their job better. I saw that was a bigger benefit, or a better strategy, because there are a lot of organizations that have very low CRM adoption rates, regardless of what the CRM is, because I've been involved with different organizations with different CRMs. And you tend to find that it's hard. It's like pulling teeth to get these people to build the CRM.
Yes, the only people who use a CRM and is a version of it is the finance and the people who have to ship the product, right? Because they have to make sure everything is, accountable for. So these are the people who like using the systems. But the sales people, they generally don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be updating information. And again, this is one thing I try to do as well in my process every time I do an implementation, is to make it very simple and painless. So the more things I could automate for them, the less work they have to do in order to fill out the CRM. So something, for example, simple like this I started doing was, I would always create a one-pager for salespeople, like a landing page that is, with the key fields that they need to fill out every time they need to create a contact. Because sometimes they will go into HubSpot and they will forget like what they need to do. And even if you made the fields mandatory, sometimes they don't have it, they have it and they just make a mess. And oftentimes what they tell you is, okay, I'm talking to this person now and I don't have time to go into HubSpot to, update things. So all I did was create a landing page on HubSpot for them, tell them to pin that on their desktop. Every time they talk to someone, open that up, fill in the fields that you have here. Most of them are dropped down. And then once you click submit, it goes into your CRM and updates everything about that contact for them. So they were like, oh my God, this is heaven. Now finally, I don't have to, type everything and click here and click there and go here and go there. So this is some trick that, you make it easier for them as well.
Easier for them. And now, because we spoke about a lot just now, right? So we spoke about the current state of how things are. We spoke about marketing and their role that they have to play in terms of bringing in leads and everything else, and their ROI. We spoke about the CRM. We spoke about the sales team. Let's talk about what we're real passionate about, which is how HubSpot helps them do all of that.
I know,
right?
Oh
and right. And I'll tell you this I'll give it to you from two standpoints. One as a partner, and one as a salesperson or CEO, right? Because I always tell people I'm always going to be a salesperson. I genuinely fell in love with HubSpot because of a number of reasons. It's ease of use. how transparent it was in terms of making the visibility of everything happening within the organization. And it just made me, it actually, I'm learning a lot by using the platform, because I've also realized that it ties into a philosophy. Inbound,
Yes.
outbound, you bring the two together and you grow as an organization. What has been your take? Because I know you've been grinding this thing out for a while.
I know, yeah. For me, for sure, it's are those things as well. But again, because I live in Israel, these people, they're not cheap. It's not just pretty cheap, okay? Lots of people all over the world are cheap. So the
Right.
first thing I always used to say to people, use the free version and then come back to me and tell me how it is. Because the free version gives you so much already. You can handle your entire sales process with the free version without even investing 1 cent into HubSpot yet. And it will change your life because you have so many features you can use, both on the sales side and the marketing side. You can set up a chatbot already on your site. You can have the forms set up. You can have your whole deal stage process set up. So just being able to use the free version and bring value to customers, which is sometimes not very popular with free products, because they often like take out certain features that are essential. HubSpot is actually giving you the best things free. And then when you pay for it, it's just the upgrade. It's like, right now the free version, I always say it's like driving a wannabe SUV. So, I drive, for example, those small SUVs. But when you want a real SUV, you need to go into something like a Hilux or something. So paying for HubSpot is the Hilux. But really, getting your small SUV version is also good as well. So this is what the free version gives to you, so you can really start and amplify your business.
I've actually seen the value of that, and as you mentioned there with the web chat, I have a client that's actually working on the free version, and especially now in this downturn, what they saw leading up to it was when they put it on their site, they actually saw the traffic their site had. They didn't have this kind of analytics from before, right?
Yes.
People were willing to talk with them and actually ask questions about pricing and features and everything else. Exactly. And they were able to respond, and they actually closed deals without ever seeing the customer until they came to pay. The only thing I was just really sharing with the team to do is how do you go about engaging and answering those questions? So that one feature alone, and even now that we sort of locked down because of this COVID-19 thing, I'm still seeing questions trickling through because customers are at home, but they need certain things, so they have to ask. Or you still have certain essential services that are open. What would you say is one of your most powerful features or recommendations for, let's say, marketers or senior vice presidents and stuff of sales within the HubSpot platform?
So many, but I think, honestly, I'll tell you what is my favorite and my most important time every time I do an implementation is processes. People don't have processes. They don't even realize that they ran their business for so long on a whim. So what is my sweet spot? I'll tell you, this is why we got so popular in the market, is that's the first thing I do. That's my secret sauce. I sit down and I listen to their mumbo jumbo, and then I build a process for them. And show them, and I mean offline process. So I map out an entire process to them to show them this is how you work. And if you have to actually move into HubSpot, this is how you need to work. So they see the before, they see the after, and then they actually see when we build it into HubSpot how the whole flow is improved. So oftentimes, because they're working in such a fast pace and they just going every day, they never took time to really map out their processes. So this is the beauty I like. After I do those processes, I can actually map it out in HubSpot and build it out for them, and they're like, "Oh my God, my life has changed. This is what I wanted."
I could have a list of things, right? So there are a couple of things that I really do like as it relates to HubSpot is, and as you mentioned, processes there. Yes, you do have a lot of companies who they've been working that way for so ever long, so they're just going off of memory, but they haven't made changes because as the customers are making changes, they have made changes to their process. So as you said earlier, to remove the friction, right? In terms of how you interact with your customer. But strangely enough, from a sales standpoint, I remember asking a number of different senior executives, so what is your forecast looking like for the next 2, 3, for 4 or 5 months, and they weren't able to say. And I was actually able to say, well, you know what, then that means that we have a problem in your sales activities, because you can't really do a proper forecast, because what's happening is that your sales team is working now for now, right?
Yeah.
Or even if you have the opportunities there, you can't really track it. So giving them the ability to do some better forecasting as it relates to their business and what to focus on at this particular time, even when it came down to something as simple as tasks. I remember there was a sales professional that said to me, Lyndon boy, sometimes I just don't know what to do with my day. Like when I get up, she can't figure out, okay, where do I start? And I was able to show her how to use tasks. Right.
Yes.
And the tasks will let her know what to do, who to call, that kind of thing. And if there was a gap in relation to her sales activities because she would have picked up on her tasks, then I would say use that time to do some more prospecting, use that time to do some more research, right? Because it's not like every single hour of your day is going to be filled with just a lot of things, but it comes back down to that stat that I can't remember who said the stat where it says salespeople are only really selling for 30-something% of the day. So what do you do with the rest of the day? And that activity page really, when I show a salesperson how to use it, and then when I show a senior executive how to use it in terms of supporting their salespeople, because I try to get sales leaders to not look at that as the big brother, to say, aha, I catch you, you're not doing your work. But really to say, okay, if this person is doing a lot of prospecting and a lot of things are in their sales funnel, they have a lot of quotes going out, but they're not closing the opportunities, and maybe they have a problem in terms of identifying the lead, they're not asking the right questions, so you can then fine tune where the person is having the challenge, right?
Yeah,
So you're using your reports dashboard to really look at your business, look at your team's processes, and then really work on fine tuning and helping them towards growing. I mean, there's a list of other things too. Like I love when
one more thing I want to mention though, that's really good with HubSpot, is the connection to your email inbox. So when you do that connection, and it's a free version, it's a free feature in HubSpot.
Extension.
Once you do that version, first of all, you can actually log all the contacts directly into the CRM when you send them emails. You can track when someone opens an email, and when you send them an email without them knowing that they open your email.
Yeah.
And you can also build the templates that you always use in different emails when you're talking to certain prospects, and just drag them straight from HubSpot into your email. So I think that connection that they give you with your inbox is like golden. It like saves salespeople so much time, because one of the things salespeople don't like to do is do updates, right? Nobody wants to give a summary of what they had with that customer prospect. Correct. So doing those logging emails into the CRM would log all the emails you're having, correspondence you're having with the prospect into HubSpot already. So anybody before, after, anybody in your team who needs to know anything about that prospect could just check your history and see what has been happening with that customer and you, so they can take it from there. So it's like amazing, that feature as well.
Amazing, yeah. Resa, we are on our time. I would just like to say again, it has been such a pleasure. I think we have to have a part 2 on this one, then to go specific, a little bit deeper into the HubSpot platform itself. But I really, really, really do want to thank you for making yourself available at this particular time and sharing, just openly sharing, as you always do, as it relates to inbound marketing, your expertise, and everything else. And we just want to wish you guys all the best across there in Israel, and we hope the whole world recovers from this thing.
I know.
Sooner
it's
than
been
later.
Long enough. I can't take my kids anymore, so it's them or me. Either me or COVID will take them. Something needs to give, Lynn. Sorry.
Oh gosh, Resa, I love talking to you. Have a great day. Have a great week, and peace. All right.
Success. Bye. Thank you for having me.